so bear with me a little bit here. So a little bit of background on who we are and I am. D9 is a fairly new brewery. We started out in 2014, so I'm not a consultant or anything like that, just a brewery guy. We started out in 2014. We produced 418 barrels. We started in September, so it's kind of the end of the year. And our first full year of production, 2015, we did 1,478 barrels, followed by 3,000 barrels last year, and we're on track for 6,000 barrels this year. So in terms of just dealing with production teams and production management and having to deal with growth, we've had to deal with our fair share. A little bit about background about myself. Justin was supposed to be here, but he's actually presenting at the MBAA today on the same exact topic, so he ditched me. I'm Andrew Dersuis, the CEO and co-founder of D9 Brewing Company. My background is in technology. I spent 15 years in technology. I started off with a few years in human capital research, followed by voice recognition, and then spent my last 5 years in global financial systems. So I'm very familiar with Six Sigma principles, Agile, Lean, excuse me, and other such. So when things started getting big enough at D9, that stuff started getting too complex, and it was just becoming a fray where shit's just happening all over the place, I kind of equated it to like watching 5-year-olds play soccer. Well, what you always knew where the soccer ball was because both teams were around the ball. And I started using that analogy a lot, like, hey, we need to spread out. We need to go to each side of the field. We need to have our forwards. We need to have our defense. We need to spread out. Apparently that analogy is just lost on our actual employees. So we hired Justin, brought him in. He's a Six Sigma black belt. It sounds cool. It really is just a term for a guy who knows a lot of shit about process. But the thing that we were after was to not end up with a methodologist. I didn't need somebody to write me a fucking manual so that I could go file it in the trash, which is what you see in technology. So we needed somebody to come in and get boots on the ground and help us out. So he came to us with 17 years of experience in pharmaceutical manufacturing because I was looking for somebody from a chemical manufacturing or a beverage manufacturing background. So that worked out pretty well for us. So he and I co-authored this presentation. So if it's good, I did it. If it's bad, he did it. Really, what the agenda is, so what I struggled with when they asked me to do this is like, you can't talk about managing a production team with a piece of software without talking about the team itself. Because the thing about ERPs, enterprise resource planning systems, is they're a crap in, crap out system. So if you put crap into it, bigger crap comes out the other side of it. So I'm going to go back and forth between a couple of things, team design, team management, and then also systems. So what we're going to talk about is what is ECOS's role in production. I know you guys look at, how you look at it now mostly as a record-keeping system. Production goals, barriers, effects, key tools, statistics, and processes. Employee engagement, that is one that I think is extremely important. Having spent 10 years in human capital research, if your team doesn't want to do the work, they're not going to do the work, bottom line. And then what are some of the outcomes that we have experienced? So I think this is important to kind of set up the argument of, what is ECOS's role? ECOS is more than a record-keeping tool. It's an enterprise resource planning tool that integrates key business functions such as planning, purchasing, inventory, and sales. As an ERP, I would say ECOS is about 80% of what most ERPs are, but I think it's the important 80% that we care about. I already overheard a couple conversations today about previous systems that were pretty terrible, didn't do the functional brewing parts of the software, or if they did not do it well. When I got into this industry before I met Greg and his team here, somebody brought me a copy of the SAP version. I forget what it's called, but there's one version of brewery management software that operates on SAP. And for anybody who came out of the technology field, SAP is like the dirtiest word in history. So I stay away from that. ECOS is an enabler of efficient, effective business processes, and the absence of a well-defined process tools like ECOS would be seen as a barrier to productivity by the production and management staff. So if you're getting people who are just resisting the use of a tool like ECOS, it comes down to the business processes and the team itself. ECOS is not a replacement for a well-run production organization. So if you can, one of the things I always say to people is start out with a spreadsheet. If you can get it running on a spreadsheet, then tools like ECOS do really well. So the goal of a production team is really to leverage the people, systems, and equipment of the company to convert raw material to finished goods for the purposes of maintaining and obtaining profitability, delivering on your mission, which this is a big thing for us because we actually have a core mission at the focus of what we're trying to do. Achieve personal satisfaction, smile, we get to brew beer. You know, it's always my argument there. And then you're trying to earn customer satisfaction. So just trying to glance past some of that because I think it's important to, I don't even know how I turned that little feature on, to know where it is we're headed. Here, this is where it starts to get into the barriers. Informal execution, compounding inefficiencies, not managing the bottle can neck. I mean, I don't know, we're all getting away from bottles, so you have to cross that out. I don't know if it becomes a can neck now. Lack of planning, visibility, training, lack of well-defined processes, and inadequate risk mitigation. I'm trying to move through these items pretty fast because I'm pretty sure you guys have got this stuff well figured out. But here's where it gets into the effects, because a lot of people say, you know what, in a brewery, you know, I just want to have my friends there, I want to hang out, I want to brew beer, man, it's cool. Well, here's what starts to happen. You start to fail to meet the demand, which creates a degraded customer experience, and you miss sales targets. Then you have an impact on your quality, which degrades customer experience and impacts sales targets. Your inventory costs start to go up, which lowers your cash reserves. Now you have lower cash, you have an inability to make capital investments. Now you've got that going on, your labor efficiency goes down. You lower your gross margins, and you lower your cash reserves. Lower cash reserves, mean lack of investments. The whole cycle feeds on itself. If anyone has a question along the way, just go ahead and stop me. The key tools that we have focused on in our brewery is JIT and Lean. JIT is just-in-time manufacturing. This is the concept of limiting buffers, limiting inventory on your balance sheet, stuff like that. So that's all about waste reduction and efficiency. Six Sigma is about defect reduction. Basically, a defect is defined as anything that's outside the customer's expectation. That could be a slow delivery time, a late delivery time, that it didn't come with the right fill level, that it didn't, the cans came, someone came without a pack tech on top of them. The cases aren't fully sealed all the way. These are all impacts to customer confidence, especially if you have distributors, retailers, anything that you're engaged with. TPM, which is just downtime prevention. How many people have, say a backup plan if the boiler shuts down? How about if your centrifuge shuts down? So D9 actually ran into an issue at the beginning of the year where the discharge became blocked in our centrifuge and dumped the liquid into the crankcase and seized the centrifuge. Now, we're still a small brewery. That's a $100,000 piece of equipment. It took us a month to get it back up and running, and that's fast. Theory of constraints, understanding and managing your limiting factors. In a brewery, your biggest constraint are your fermenters. That is the constraint. And if you understand how to manage constraints, it will help you greatly. And visual workplace, how do you get so that everyone has all the knowledge they need at any given moment? So key statistics, I think this is kind of an interesting point, Again, I started going through this whole thing, where they challenged me, like, hey, can you talk about production management? It's like, that is freaking complicated. I mean, do I go into the theory of production? Do you go into the tools of production? But you got to do a little bit of each. So hopefully I'm getting this at the right level here. The things that we measure are things like finish to finish time. Finish to finish time, I think, is one of the most important metrics. We do not measure start to finish time. We measure finish to finish time because you need to measure the gap in between the batches. If you're not measuring how long it takes you to bring that tank back online, you're just wasting money. In our case, and it'll save us at the end, when we started focusing on finish to finish time and compressing our finish to finish times, we went from 18 days finish to finish to 12 days finish to finish, which for our small brewery resulted in an additional 177 barrels a month of capacity. That's a couple fermenters, or in our case, a bunch of fermenters, right? So that's pretty important. Effective capacity. We don't measure theoretical capacity, theoretical capacity is just a known capacity. Most people that I've talked to usually say, I take my fermenters and I can use them twice in a month. So I just take my capacity, my fermentation capacity, double it, that's my monthly capacity. I'm like, Cool. Have you ever actually tested it and seen what you've actually put out? And that's what I call your effective capacity. In our case, we started out with a low effective capacity, but by focusing on finish-to-finish time, cycle times, things like that, we were able to essentially give ourselves more capacity just by operating a more efficient company. And the key thing is it created a lot less employee stress. When the stress went down, people started relaxing a little bit. The whole program was much easier and much smoother. Inventory buffer utilization. So the concept of inventory buffer utilization is that when you're dealing with sales, the thing that I always try to remind people is we don't make bolts. We make stuff that goes bad. So we need to manufacture it, but manufacture it just before it goes out the door. We want to hold some on hand because, oh, that batch just took 2 more days. That means your inventory is on the floor for those 2 days. So you need to pull that inventory from somewhere. So what we actually look at is what is our buffer utilization against our expectations. So our sales team forecasts every single month. We do the annual forecast, but then, I don't know, we've never gotten our annual forecast right. But then we do our monthly forecast. As we go into our monthly forecast, we break that down by item, and then we look at the utilization against that. So we're looking at run rates and trying to make sure that the run rates are matching what our inventory expectations are so that we can adjust our minimums. This is where we go into Ecos. We actually reset our minimums every few weeks in Ecos to say, hey, we're expecting our run rate shift. Let's go ahead and up those minimums so that they start alerting on our dashboard. One thing you see here, this is actually our dashboard, and I'm going to pull it up and show you guys at the end. So we have a dashboard. Luckily, with my background in technology, Ecos created the dashboarding capability. And if there's any technologists in the room, you can hook up Firebug to their site and strip out all their URL calls. And I figured out how to grab the dashboard page, and it sits up there on a screen and refreshes every 5 minutes. So if you're just sitting there in the meetings, the data is constantly updating inside of our company. Hopefully that's a good goading for you to actually roll that out as a legit feature.
We can all learn.
I can show you. Another one is shipping on time and in full. We got rid of the concept of what is the percentage of orders. I'm sorry, I'm standing in your way. But what is the percentage of orders that have actually shipped? So one of the problems with just looking at percentage of material ordered that was fulfilled is that if one case is missed, it's like 99.99. Sounds awesome, right? For us, on time and in full means that you lose the whole order as an on time and in full if one case is missing. So for us, we try to maintain a 90 to 95% on time and in full. If it's not on time and in full, a root cause has to happen. We got to actually go back and say, was it an inventory mistake? Was it a packaging mistake? Did we think that we had 30 cases, but it was really 5 cases? You know, where did we lose that ball? Sales delta against forecast, I talked about that already. Labor efficiency, that's really key. Anybody who's in the meeting next door here, that's an important one. You know, understanding your direct labor and how much it costs to produce that beer. If you don't have that under control, you know, the price goes way up real fast. A couple of the key statistics we actually use on our dashboard are packaging/sales delta. I've asked Greg and his team for a speedometer dial many times. So this is the argument that if you produce in a 30-day window, let's say you produce 1,000 barrels of beer and you sell 1,000 barrels of beer, your speed is 0. You haven't gone up nor down in inventory. Well, it's not how the game works. It's always a relative thing. You're always selling and packaging at the same time. So what we look at is the packaging delta. So we actually ran a report that what it does, it looks at all of the transactions and sums them for the last 30 days. And if that net inventory is a negative number, well, guess what? You're shipping it out faster than you're making it. If that net number is a positive number, you're packaging it faster than you're selling it. So you want it to stay close. You want to stay, you know, almost kind of a 0. We kind of say we want to be 20% above sales at all times. Of course, if you do that 100% of the time, you'll end up creating too much inventory and got pulled back down. But for us, I think the dashboard I looked at this morning, it said that we were 77 barrels ahead of sales. I've also seen that 77 barrels behind sales, which means that you're obliterating your inventory. Finished goods needs, inventory versus sales. So we actually have on our dashboard what the current inventory on hand, what the inventory available is, and what the inventory minimums are. And like I said, we actually go back through ECOS on a monthly basis and update the inventory minimums based upon our sales run rates, what we're expecting from them. So in that dashboard, anything that starts to go below, the available goes below the inventory minimum, it flags it and says, hey, you better have this prioritized and in the pipeline, because if you leave it as is, you're going to be out of it and you're going to miss an order. Production state monitoring, fermenting, crashing, conditioning, overdue. So we've created these 4 states on our dashboard. So we look at what's fermenting, what's crashing, what's conditioning, and what's overdue. Inside of ECOS, you can actually go in and say how many days for each beer do you expect the fermentation cycle, how many days do you expect the conditioning cycle. For us, well, I kind of had to hack some of this, and not hack, I just kind of had to force the data a little bit. But really what we needed to know is what beers are overdue. And when are they overdue? And in what cycle are they overdue? What state are they overdue? Are they overdue in fermentation? Are they overdue in packaging? We needed that kind of visibility, so we built that in. Also, open shipments. You know, what do we have coming up? Are there 15 shipments tomorrow? And I'm watching the packaging people go, oh, we're done for the day. We haven't wrapped anything. We haven't set the pallets, but we're out of here. We're going to go home for the day. You're looking, you know, dude, you've got 800 units that are going out tomorrow, and you're telling me that you'll get it all done by 8 a.m. tomorrow? How's that happening? And then non-standard inventory changes. This is one that I think is the bane of our production team. So, you know, they do a check-in of 10,000 pounds of grain. Hey, look, we just got 10,000 pounds in. But it was really more like 9,500 pounds that actually arrived. But hey, close enough, round it, right? Well, eventually somebody does an inventory and then says, no, we don't have that amount of grain. We have this less amount of grain. So what it does, that creates an inventory write-off, creates a write-off against your accounting. We monitor that. Anything that goes over $1,000 change in our system just immediately gets flagged. And it's on a dashboard, a financial dashboard that I won't show you guys, but you can make one yourself. But the point is, if you see large changes in inventory value, something's wrong, something's not being managed. Key processes, we have a daily stand-up. So this is you know, part of the Six Sigma lean stuff. So at 2 o'clock every day, our team hangs around we've got a front foyer area where you saw that dashboard, and also that whiteboard sits there. And we actually do a stand-up. We have each team report off what is going on, what happened the last 24 hours, next 24 hours, and concerns. So we start out with packaging, because packaging as the end of the line is really the beginning, because we work from the customer backward. So from the customer's perspective, we want to know, what did we package in the last 24? What are we going to be packaging in the next 24? And what barriers to you achieving that do you have? Next, we go into fermentation. We get a fermentation report off on each tank. Anybody who has family in the medical field, we modeled this after the nursing model of report. They do a handoff of each bed. So we hand off each tank. We report out each tank, and we say, okay, this is how this tank did. We saw only a 1% or a 1 point change in the last 24 hours. That should be a flag right there. Like, are we coming up on, you know, full attenuation, or are we lagging? And if we're lagging, can we do something early rather than waiting to the end?
Do you have everybody involved in the stand-up?
Just the leads. So I think that's probably an important thing. So we've created tower leads. So each discipline, brewery, fermentation, and packaging has a lead associated with it. We don't really make them HR managers, but we make them functional leads. So they're responsible for the day's work in that area, but we don't want them having to deal with the HR of the whole thing. So there's actually a director, Justin's actually over all of the teams. Yeah. We want to hand off each individual tank and know about issues as early as possible, because anybody who's sat down and done the work on the numbers, the faster that you can dump a beer, the cheaper it is. If you get in and you're 48 hours in and you're like, oh, that's 5% attenuation, don't ask questions. Don't screw with the tank. Just dump it and rebrew it. By the time you get 3 or 4 weeks out, you're like, oh man, it's only 5% away. We can get there. The beer's not good anymore. It doesn't taste the same, and you've just wasted all your time. It would be cheaper for you just to rebrew it. It's only a few $1,000s in grain. Root cause analysis. Anytime we end up out of control, we actually start digging into the data. What happened? Not to really chastise or kill people, but we've got to be hard on the process. It means that we've not defined something right, or somebody's not executed a process right. Incident management, we actually do record all of our things that go outside of our expectations. Like if we miss an on-time and in full order, we actually log as an incident. When our distributors, when we get a call from a retailer and retailer says, hey man, I just ordered a shitload of beer from your distributor saying that they're out. That's an incident because our distributors are not supposed to be out of beer. That's the whole point. So in the distributor world, we not only have to manage ourselves, we actually have to also manage our distributors. We get, for example, live inventory from every one of our distributors every Monday on top of the fact that we have VIP. Because I don't know if you guys all have distributors that work phenomenally and get that data to you right away. Doesn't happen. So we get live feeds out of their systems every Monday.
How do you track incidents? Do you have a separate program?
Excel. We just log it in Excel. Who reported it? Where did it come from? What facing was it? Was it customer facing, production facing, things like that? It's fairly basic. I mean, incident management and crisis management can go through the roof, and I don't think they really have a place in a small brewery. But you need, when something doesn't do what you expect it to do, you should log it. And then when you do your CI meetings, your continuous improvement meetings, that's where you bring it out and say, we've missed, out of like 20 orders, we've missed something on 10 of them. What's going on? How are we doing that?
Is the continuous improvement meeting the production meeting, or is that two separate meetings?
Yeah, these are all separate meetings. Well, the incident management is more of kind of just management does this, and root cause is as needed. There's a daily stand-up and a CI meeting. Our CI meeting is every Tuesday at like 10 a.m. We sit down, the leads, just the leads sit down, and we go through, all right, what worked over the last week and what broke over the last week, because it's never perfect. And then we may walk out of the meeting and go, hey, it was a pretty good week, only 10 things broke.
How many people do you have working in the brewery?
Our production is around 15, 16 people, something like that. Yeah, we try to stay as lean as possible, pun intended, I guess. But, we're not an enormous organization, but the thing is that I think to handle the change rate that we have, the growth rate, you have to have this level of organization. And as what I was trying to articulate in the opening, I actually have I value this stuff coming from technology, that the more control that you can build into your process, the more predictable your organization can become, and the less stressful it becomes on the people. So control structure actually gets right into my point. One of the things that I've been accused of several times is creating corporatist structures inside of a brewery. It's like, aren't we just brewing beer, man? It's like, yes, I'm trying to brew beer, but I'm trying not to go broke in the meantime. So corporatism is excessive control of people. What we shoot for is efficiency, which is understanding and smart control of processes and systems. So really just thinking about the processes and systems that we're supposed to have, then finding people to go do those things, rather than just demanding that people don't screw up, which is what stresses people out like crazy. What we've kind of said is we value efficiency over corporatism as a method for delivering on the business plan with minimal variability and personal stress. Because I don't know about you guys, if those of you who are dealing with lots of growth, lots of change, people stress the fuck out fast. And, you want to do what? It gets pretty wild pretty quick. Couldn't get through a meeting on dealing with production teams without talking about engagement. Engagement is one of the most important concepts in any organization. As I said, I spent 10 years in organizational science. I will go through this very fast because I don't want you guys to pass out. Find what motivates your staff and help them understand their role in the direction of the company. This is why we had a 3-hour presentation yesterday. We were doing exactly this because we need to constantly work at reminding people where the company is going, what our next steps are, and what they need to be doing inside of it so that they value those changes and don't rebel against those changes. Engagement can be negatively impacted by unexpected change. For anybody who loves to read books, Who Moved My Cheese, that was written in the 80s, is a phenomenal book that explains this. I would also, if you're dealing with a lot of internal organizational stress with your people and all the changes that you have to make, phenomenal book. It's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And it's a concept that, looks back at every successful startup. And the startups love to say things like, oh, I got such and such a deal, and that's what made us successful. It never is. We all have access to those deals as we go. The question is your organization capable of executing against it? Did you deal with the hard issues ahead of time? The quicker your staff can adapt to change, the more satisfied they will be. The more flexible you can make them, they'll roll with it. But you got to make sure the communication is there. You are affecting someone else's engagement right now. That was a big point that I brought up in our meeting yesterday, is like, remember, everything that comes out of your mouth, you're affecting someone's engagement. And don't let others negatively affect your engagement. So that's the end of my soapbox on organizational science. So key process is enabled or controlled via ECOS. This goes back to my original concept that ECOS is not a creator of process. It does not do anything but implement what you were going to do anyway. So if you just want to use it as a record-keeping tool, it means that that's what you value. You just wanted to keep your records and do your tax return for you. We needed to manage our operations so that we can produce more efficiently, keep our labor costs down, keep our inventory costs down, and continue to grow the company. And just so you guys can kind of understand, we're going to produce 6,000 barrels a year this year on a 10-barrel system. And we will actually be able to bring that system up to right around 1,000 barrels a month before, someone kills us. We do have to limit how far we do push the system because there is a red line on it. But if you can do that on such a small system, then you're running it efficiently. That's been my argument from the beginning, is by the time we make a move to a next system, we need to be as efficient as possible. So the things that we focus on is purchasing. We actually use all of the purchasing capabilities inside of ECOS. We issue POs. We actually track them, the return as it's coming back. We do raw inventory management, raw material forecasting. So we do use the forecasting tool, although we do have to go outside of the system right now and use Excel for taking sales forecasting and balancing it against inventory. Once you understand what your inventory needs are, then you can actually forecast what your raw material needs are. We do finished goods management. I don't know why I put an MG there. And finished goods forecasting. Finished goods is just packaged beer. Accounts payable management. So by receiving all of our inventory through ECOS, we have an auto sync over to QuickBooks that creates the invoices. The invoices are then synced to bill.com. Then we can pull reports and see what needs to get paid. Accounts receivable management, that's just my fancy way of saying we cut all of our invoices right out of ECOS. We don't use a separate system to do that. Production task management, this is, I even put it as coming soon because I have been waiting on this for a while. What Greg and Josh presented about at the beginning, we've talked about many times about this concept of getting away from ECOS as a record management system and start getting it to a workflow management system so that every day you walk in, the system generates, here are all the tasks you have to complete today. You have to check the gravity on every beer. You need to check the pH on every beer. You need to check the O2 on the beer, and just start rolling all that stuff through. Because what happens with a record-keeping system is your entire production team forgets about it until it's 3 days later, and then has to spend an entire day unscrewing all of the inventory and counter effects that have happened from that. By doing the task management in a ongoing fashion, where for us, we literally want our production leads walking around with just little mini iPads that done, and that's actually creating data rather than typing stuff in, because that'll never happen. That's going to help us pretty big. We also do all of our shipping and receiving out of there, so we use all distributors. We don't self-distribute at all. So we do all of our outbound shipping managed through ECOS, receiving. Current state visibility, which is the dashboard that I keep talking about. We're trying to launch more dashboards around the company. And then outlier alerting. So when we see things that are starting to get out of control, we get that data from ECOS, but we're still trying to get some more capabilities inside of the tool. So this is my last slide. What did we get out of it? How did, after all that work and all these controls, what did we end up with? We reduced our finish-to-finish time from an average of 18 days to 12 days, which added 177 barrels of more effective capacity. That's a bunch of fermenters. That is a shitload of fermenters, for us anyway. We increased our on-time and in-full shipments to 95%. 6 months ago, I think that number would have been like 30% that actually got a full order. We greatly increased our batch stability. The better that you can do your inventory management, the more stable your batches are. Because the thing that I've noticed is no brewer actually wants to do a substitution. The only reason you do a substitution is because you can't brew the beer without the substitution. So I've realized that batch stability really more often comes down to inventory management than it does anything else. Greatly increased visibility. The more that people can see when they're walking past the dashboard, they look at it and go, hey, why did that number just go negative? Hey, why do I see a beer that's sitting at 22 days in the fermenter? What's wrong with it? Rather than what happens is that, you get a big not my job, when you don't have that visibility. People walk by and they just see fermenters, man. Hey, I package beer, I don't worry about that. Or hey man, I'm a brewer, I don't really care. Once it goes to the fermenter, I just expect at some point it'll get done. Now, the daily stand-ups and the dashboards, they beat you over the head with that data so that you actually go and address it. Significantly reduced miscommunication and cross-functional cycle time. So as I said, we have 3 towers. So we have the packaging, fermentation, and the brewers. Cross-functional miscommunication. I don't know, that should be a band name or something. I mean, that is pretty much how our company operated. I mean, we strive to be excellent in miscommunication. Really what would happen is team A team lead A would hook up with team lead B, they would hash out a plan, team lead C had no idea about the plan and executed a completely different plan. And at which point, net, we were slower than if we'd all just stopped for a minute and talked to each other. So how do we enforce that? We do the dashboarding, we do the daily stand-ups. Daily stand-ups, by the way, 15 minutes tops, maybe 20. When you first do the first couple, 30 is the absolute limit. What you want is people to walk in, report off what is going on, listen for everybody else's report off, and then go back to work. If it takes more than 30 minutes, you're not doing it right. None of us have that much. I mean, it should not take you an hour.
So this is sort of a tangent, but I'm in a different industry. Professional services firm. I try to do daily stand-ups, but it's hard to get buy-in for it and to get people on board. So I was wondering what the buy-in process was like with you, and did it take a long time to get people?
I'm the boss. I just told them to do it.
You just told them. Did you say try it for 30 days and then let's see how you feel about it? Or?
No, I understand it from the consulting perspective because I too have been in that place where consultants have come outside and said, hey, this is what we think should happen. Really, to me, it always comes down to leadership. Does a leadership value what the outcome of this is? Doing it as a test, definitely. I think you get the buy-in to at least start it. And then the value is pretty amazing, pretty fast. Just watching, it used to be a situation where we had to sit there and facilitate the communication. I kind of show up, type stuff on my phone while they're all sitting there talking, and I just make sure everyone's talking, and then we roll back on. They now see the value in it, but on the other hand, if we didn't require it, they would stop doing it. They would absolutely stop doing it because people like to focus on their main thing, and they don't think communication is the main thing, but it really is. And then obviously a significant increase in our labor efficiency. That's been huge for us because if you can't get your labor under control, your labor is a percentage of your production. If that keeps just ramping up where it's like, we're so inefficient that I need to hire Bobby, then I need to hire Phil, then I need to hire Jackie, then I need to, it just keeps building and building and building. If you can't get that under control, you're just never going to get out of the gravity of the fact that you're operating a manufacturing company, and manufacturing companies are purely built on efficiency. I made this point last night. I said, guys, you got to remember at the end of the day, this is a manufacturing company that has to operate just like a toothpaste factory, just like any other company. But smile, we get to make beer. You all have pictures of beer in your hands, not toothpaste. And nobody here has beer. By the way, did anyone notice that Coca-Cola company brought Coca-Cola, but we don't have beer? I don't know, it just occurred to me. Anyway, that's it. That's my presentation. If you guys have any questions, feel free to speak.
If you don't mind me asking, what's your labor goal?
Overall or production?
I don't know, I guess I didn't know you'd break it down that.
Yes, so production, he said 8 to 12%. I did the calculation, we're at 12%, so I guess that's good. I look at overall this year, so it comes down year over year. If you look at our first year in operation, we were about 65% labor, but that's a startup, right? That went down to about 45% labor the next year. This year, we're targeting 35% labor. Ultimately, that number should land around 22 to 25% for
Overall, just.
the whole company. The whole company. Yeah. That is down to the bartenders, general administrative staff, our event staff, because we have a huge event staff. All of them cannot cost more than 20 to 25%.
You're talking payroll as a percentage of revenue.
Correct. And 22 to 25 is very high in manufacturing. But there's a point at which that I feel like stop squeezing it, it's beer. You know, we don't want to make our lives a living hell.
I've lived in that hell and I don't want to go back.
I agree. That's why I was like, 20 to 25, I'll call it a day there. I've had people tell me, you need to be below 20. I'm like, no, dude, I'm not pushing it that hard.
So 22 to 23.
Yeah, I think that's solid.
Is your baseline sellable barrels or produced barrels?
The baseline for the percentage, it's actually based on revenue, so it's only sold.
Oh, revenue.
It's a percentage of revenue.
So it sounds like a lot of stuff, is really in the structure and the way you run your company.
Yep.
Now, your communication on that's got to be huge. How do you, it almost seems like a mentality. How do you
get there?
project that to all the other people? In other words, get everybody on the same button.
Right. The adoption to any system always, in my opinion, comes down to leadership. So if you own your brewery or are the manager leader of that group, the thing is that you do what you value, and the people that work for you will do what you value. And if you're not willing to do it, they're not willing to do it.
Now, what part of that is process for a new hire? Like you hire a bartender, you gotta show them how to hook up a keg, change a keg, do all this stuff. Training manuals. Do you guys have that? Implementing all the systems, beyond general manufacturing practices, good general manufacturing practices. Where did that come into play?
Well, from the manual's perspective, I'll be honest, the only real structured manual we have is our employee handbook. And it's just because you've got to have one once you have enough people. We only have about 16 people working in production. There are 44 people on D9's payroll. And we're still a small brewery, and that terrifies me. So I need everyone to read the handbook so they know why I'm firing them. What's that? 44.
A bunch of taproom people.
Taproom events. We do a lot of swing shift stuff where people come in, come out. We do a huge number of external events, and it's part of our mission to do that. So.
You have 15 people on ops staff producing 7,000 barrels a year.
Yeah.
Where? I'm just curious because we're not.
We play clown music on a loop when you come in, so we just go.
We go to CBC and other things and get to converse with other brewers, but I'm curious, just other people in this crowd at that scale, what your production kind of per volume looks like. For us, we have 7 production staff, and we'll push 15 to 16,000 barrels out the door this year. What does everybody else production staff? Okay.
Yeah, we're also on a much smaller system, so the size of the system definitely impacts that. Yeah, so we have a bottling line.
People running the bottling line.
And that's what it is. We've gotten it down to 3 people on bottling, and now we're trying to get it down to 2, but that comes down to the stability of the system. So we're trying to break that down. We do bottling, so you're talking about construction of mother cartons, construction of the 6-pack carriers, the casing, the pack off, the shipping. So when I say production, it's everything, the soup to nuts inside of there. So.
When you do your daily startup, you said you prepare first from packaging, then fermentation.
Yeah,
and then-
brewery. Yeah, breweries last because they're first in the process. So they're the last thing, what you can brew is dependent on what is being packaged and what is being fermented because it blocks the brewery. And what can go into packaging depends on whether or not packaging actually has tanks free. So we work from where the beer is headed backward. At least that's the principle of it.
How much beer volume is in the tap room?
I think I looked at it's less than 30% now.
30%.
Yeah, we mostly distribute.
Getting everybody on board with Ecos, and like everybody's got to use it, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much in your production team. Like, what do you do to make it easily accessible for them? Like, what's the general practices that you guys institute on a daily basis for people?
The big thing that we did is we went out and bought TVs for each section, and then there's something called an Asus Chrome Stick. They're about $100 for the stupid little things. You plug it into the HDMI connection, get a keyboard for it, and you're basically making it so that in the middle of their work center, that's the key, is don't make them have to go anywhere for it. In the middle of their work center is a TV with a keyboard, and they just do it right there because the Asus Chrome Stick runs Chrome OS. So these guys, the brewery has one sitting right above where they play all their death metal music from, and the packaging has it where they have a desk for all their paperwork, incoming and outgoing bills of lading.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How many hours do you literally spend a week just on Ecos with adjusting your minimums? Do you guys just have a dedicated Ecos person?
No, we federated out. Like each tower lead has to put in and manage their data. Of course, whenever we run into a situation where you checked in 10,000 pounds of grain, but it was really 9,000 pounds of grain, yeah, that ends up dragging on time because someone's got to go find out why they can't turn the batch or, why inventory is missing when we thought it was going to be there. But we don't, I wouldn't say that we spend a huge amount of time, but I would say that if you walk around our brewery, at any given moment, somebody is using the tool, but only for a few minutes.
Another question would be, because really, I guess my company is, the brew house is behind the wall. They're the only department that's not using Ecos right now. I'm not even in the department, so I'm only here, so I gotta go back and teach everyone how to do everything. But they're having issues with putting recipes in Ecos because we very rarely brew the same beer. We have like 2 core beers, 2 seasonals, and the rest is like a new beer every single time.
Yep.
So that's why they're having issues just with the initial data done.
So I found a way to deal with that because we do a small batch that we have to distribute small, like little collaborations. Somebody will come in like, hey, we do 10 barrels of this. I'm like, sure, have a blast. So if there's any TTB in the room, just cover your ears for a second. What we did is we labeled a beer called Concentrated Awesomeness, and really all it is just a placeholder for a small batch. That's labeled TTB, it's labeled NCABC because we're a North Carolina brewery, and then we set that up inside of Ecos. What we've done is we just create a recipe under that product each time, and then what you do is you don't package it into the same kegs, the packaging, the six-toll itself. You can create a six-toll per brand. So you can say, here's this six-toll. It was actually the Max Beach Out collab. This one was the Bottle Revolution collab. This one was this collab, that collab. So they're just listed down the list there. That's the ones where one-offs. Ecos does struggle with one-offs, but that's the way we found to kind of hotwire, because at the end of the day, yeah, you're kind of messing with the costing controls of it. But are you really spending a shitload of time on costing controls for a one-off beer? It's still costed out correctly, but I think that's the easier way to manage it, just as a suggestion.
Can you show us that deconstructed dashboard?
Yeah. It doesn't really fit on my screen really well, but let me get it here.
So is this what you're using the Asus Chrome 6 for, or that's for data entry?
Yeah, this is actually just on a Chromecast. Because it just needs to just run off a computer. So it's run off my desktop upstairs. That looks weird on the screen. Yeah, that obviously, I didn't design the dashboard for my actual laptop. But what we do is we show each one of our fermenters. If the fermenter is missing, it means it doesn't have anything in it. So each one of the fermenters with the batch, the barrels, the pH, the temperature, the gravity, the percent of attenuation. Things that are interesting are items that are on orders, crashing, what beers are actually below their crashing temperatures. So what that is that's basically just a report that says anything that's below, I think 55 degrees or something like that. Because once it becomes below 55 degrees, either it's gone really bad or you're crashing it. So we kind of just grab that piece of data. Conditioning is just that it's in a bright tank. And then down here, you see overdue. What this is that we created 2 classes of beer. We actually have so this one actually, I think, had a trigger around 18 days. So I said this class of beers has to be done in under 18 days, this class under 12 days. And then I just went in and I ran a report on them and said, okay, if it's this style of beer and it's over that date, then flag it. So that's what that does right there. Open shipments. Finished goods, yeah. And then this is just the items that are going out in the next, couple of days. We have 845 units going out this week. So, yeah. I was trying to give you guys the most possible information I could without obviously just, pulling the pants down to our entire brewery, but hopefully that was helpful. Yeah.
If I gave you my card, would you share your PowerPoint with us?
Yeah, actually, they asked me to share the PowerPoint, so I definitely will send it out.
Oh, perfect.
Did you have a question still? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, she had one more question I forgot, sorry.
I want to know if you or anyone else uses the timesheets feature and whether or not it's worth implementing.
We don't. We actually use Zimble, so they can clock in and clock out on their iPhones. That's a lot easier for us. That actually is kind of cool and retro. But I've always wanted that.
And so we have to physically go pick them up.
Yeah, that part not so neat. So my wife runs our payroll, so I just try not to die every time she gets pissed off at everything that's happening. And even with that, you get the whole thing of like, they clocked in and it shows that they've not clocked out in 4 days. It's like, I really don't think you worked 4 days straight. So there's a lot of corrections on it. That's what we've used.
Yeah, so